Okay, here we go. This is vid 2. This is going to be a driving strategy guide for, again, I've gone for an average play, 18 handicap, 220 yard. So if you look over here, this is the first, that's 220 yards. On some of the holes, I've moved the tee position forward if they're downhill, moved the tee position back if it's uphill. This is just the one I haven't moved, so it's probably just a little bit further on here, but this represents 220 yards distance from this position. So what I have done is I've gone down the first and put the target, the middle of the triangle, right in the centre of the fairway, and I've done that for all of the holes on Morley Hayes. There's 4 holes where if you aim down the middle of the fairway, I think it's a good choice. Other than that, so that's excluding the par 3s, that's 10 holes where if you aim down the middle of the fairway, you are making a mistake, which I'll go through now. And I'm going to do this quite quickly because I want to get through 18 holes and the most important decisions that you make when you're playing. I've done the first. I think for 18 handicapper, unless you can get it past this tree here and out into this area, there's a bit of a bailout here. I think it's a layup. So you've got to be carrying it quite a good distance. So for your really good players, I think there's a bit of a bailout area here. But other than that, everybody else, I think, want to be laying up unless you're arrow straight. Hole number 2. For this one, this is 220. So you've got options here, and if you hit it this far, I would take out that ditch and I would aim over towards this tree and hit into this area. So we'd move the triangle on this. The target would actually be the tree because we know that we can't make the ditch. You might say, oh, but what am I behind here? If you do that, you've still only got, you've got what, 220 to there. Say you hit it there, and it's not your best shot because you want it to be here, but it's still a wedge from high ground, and it's an easy peasy bogey. If you hit it further than this, if you're a long hitter, then it changes. The target now becomes the 150 sign, and your target is kind of like that. So there. So this one depends how far you hit it. If you don't hit it far enough, you've got to miss this ditch so that your triangle never ever goes in a hazard. Rough, it can go into. We never want it in a hazard. Okay, that's an important one. Hole number 3. This is a cracker. Picking a target in the middle of the fairway pretty much takes off, I would say, about 40% of an 18 handicapper's target. There's no need to be trying to get this green in 2 for an 18 handicap, so why not just hit it into this area, anywhere here, with a shorter club than your hybrid. Even if you hit it 150, then you've still only got a small wedge in 80 yard wedge. So that one there is my number 1 mistake that I see a lot of amateurs make. And when you have a shot that you don't fancy, that's when you put your bad swings on it. I'm going to leave number 4 because it's more important about the layup. This is about tee shots. This hole here is the flat spot. If you're hitting driver, you've got the ditches, you've got the trees. It's an absolute nightmare. So you want to be in this area. This is the flat spot. This is your big target, and all here, and then from there it is downhill. But I would say that it's an easy layup, bail out here or bail out here, depending on how you do. Next hole, this is the next biggie. 220 down the hill. If you hit driver here, you have that is death, and all of that is death. So by the time you take that out and that out, you've got about 50%, maybe 55%. The bailout shot is to hit it with anything that goes short of the water into this space. So that now becomes the target off the tee, which is hitting straight towards the water, but choosing a club that only goes, bearing in mind it's downhill, that only goes probably about 180. Then it's a relatively easy wedge onto the green, and you've got your layup if you need it. Another one. This is the 8th. If you hit the drive and you hit it really good, you can go in the ditch, you can go in this water, you can go in that water. So it has to be a shot that goes only as far as this line here, and that means that you can hit it all the way across from anywhere terrible shot over this side all the way over there, which then gives you your 66, 70 yards distance that you can miss and still have a shot towards the green. So driver is a massive mistake. I'd say that's number 2 biggest mistake I see. Why try and thread a drive straight through there? The chances of you getting it through there, you've only got 50% chance of, if you hit a good drive, that's if you hit a good drive, you've only got 50% chance of staying on dry land. You don't want to be taking shots where your triangle ever goes over a hazard. This one here, aiming straight down the middle of the fairway, you might think that's not too bad, but the real thing about this hole is you don't want to be going over the bunker, so that's why the target should be to hit into these trees, and we never really want to be on the right. So even if you're in this stuff, you're a bit unlucky to get behind a tree. If you are a tree, you can chip out. If you're not in a tree, then it's only 100 yards and you've got all the length of the green to go. I'll leave this one. Okay, so we're over to over to 10. I'm going to leave 10. 11. Hitting the middle of the fairway is an absolute terrible idea, because 40% of the time, if you hit it left, you're blocked out by the trees. So the target is not the middle of the fairway. The target is the right rough. That's the target. That leaves you with all that area to hit into. I know you're hitting into the rough, but then you've got a lovely gap through to either lay up 150 yards, 140 yards, and then you've got a little pitch onto the green. Again, a bogey on that hole is pretty good. On to par 5. This one depends how far you hit it. If you hit it this far, you need to change your club, because if you aim down the middle of the fairway, if you hit it well, you're going to go in that bunker, and you're probably going to pitch in that bunker. So you've only got you've only got 50% chance probably of not going in either one of those bunkers. So if you can carry the first bunker, your target is the bunker. If you can't get in there, then the target becomes that bunker, and it means that you can't get it in that side. So again, aiming down the middle of the fairway, for most people, well, for everybody really on that hole, it's an error. This is another one. If you hit it a long way, the target becomes here. If you're hitting at 250, that is your target. If you hit it this far, it's not really, it's a nightmare shot. So you definitely don't want your ball going out of bounds. So this is if you don't hit a good tee shot, I think this is a layup. Layup, 7-iron, pitching wedge, sand wedge, and it's the easiest bogey you'll ever have in your life. Again with this one, I think for the majority of 8 handicappers, this is layup into this area and another layup again, because there's just too much danger. Again, that's all trouble, that's trouble. So you've only got this tiny gap to hit into. You've got 20 yards, you're only going to hit that 1 out of 3 times. Most of the time you're in these trees on the right, and it's an absolute nightmare. Whereas it's an easy peasy layup, look at this, it's a 8-time pitching wedge, chip on the green, and just walk off the golf course, that hole with a 5. Pretty straightforward on the 15th, on the 7th, 16th and 17th and 18th. Where I've lost my bearings here. 18. I've left clear because it's pretty simple. So there you go. A few holes there that you really don't want to be taking driver off, and there's only 4 of those holes where it's worthwhile on the par 4s, par 5s, hitting down the middle of the fairway. Let me know if that's any good for you.